Where are we? Screen share. Okay. Oh, that's what's missing. Hey, everybody, how are you? I apologize. The little thing about turning the camera on, I guess, is as many. I've been doing these webinars since way before COVID happened, and I got to tell you something. I'm having a ball. So let me get over to the page that you're on because I got a bunch of stuff going on here. Let's do this. That didn't do it. That didn't. There we go. All right. Okay. So anyway, thank you for being here today. I'm going to make you rich. Okay. No, I want you to be happy, okay? Happy before rich, but maybe you get rich too. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like. So we are at the Greater San Diego Association of Realtors, and my name is Kevin Burke, and there is my telephone number, and there is my email address. And I want you to feel free to reach out to me, please. If I don't respond, then hit me again, okay? Because I always feel bad. People say I didn't want to bother you. And it's like I'm asking you to bother me, okay? So please bother me. Please, reach out to me, ask questions. That's what I'm here for. I want to help you in the best way that I can, okay? So let me double check. I want to make sure that I have turned back on the recording. Good. Okay. All right. I did that one time where I turned the recording off and then forgot to turn it back on again. That was a disaster. So anyway, there's my email address. I'm trying to think about a way to maybe make it a watermark at the bottom of a screen. I might look on doing that later on this afternoon, but because the email address, people invariably ask me, 20 slides into it, what's your email address? So I want to make sure that you have that, and I'll have it at the end again. And I've got all kinds of links to the YouTube videos, and I load all these things up to YouTube. So I'm hoping that that makes people happy. So that being said, let's take a look. I got some credentials that I think make me qualified to discuss the subject. So been in real estate for in excess of 40 years. I'm getting ready to change that 4 to a 5. I hope you're having as much fun as I am, because I just love what I do. And so I'm a broker. I have a broker's license in several states. I'm about to get West Virginia, only because I'm shocked at how many people have come to me and said, hey, can you broker a deal for us in West Virginia? And it's like, where's that come from, right? But okay, I get it. I think you should. All right, I think you should. I do teach. I just started again on Tuesday teaching a class again, as I have for almost 25 years. I teach MCLE, ABA approved continuing education for attorneys, real property law. So we talk about a lot of different things. Today, our focus is really going to be on safety, but success. I want you to be successful at your open house. I'm going to talk to you about a lot of stuff today. I am going to ask you to kind of clear your mind of preconceived notions, and I'm going to show you how to have fun doing this. Okay, so risk management committees. I just did a whole class. I created a class that I'm going to try to push up to the DRE for approval on open house safety for us as agents. And so a lot of these classes I've been doing, I think I'm just going to go ahead and get them DRE approved at some point. This is not DRE. This class is not DRE approved, although I have been approved by the Department of Real Estate to do a class on the residential purchase agreement for 5 hours of continuing ed. Okay, so if you thought 2 hours with me was fun, imagine what 5 hours is going to be. So there we go. What else? Nothing. We're going to be talking about stuff that's going to appear to be legal. I am not a practicing attorney. Let me get my microphone over a little bit closer. Not a practicing attorney, no interest in it whatsoever. I do a lot of trial work, mostly limited to testifying as an expert witness, mostly in defense of real estate brokerages. So standard of care, agents' duties of inspection and disclosure, market conditions in San Diego County, that kind of thing. Conversation today not intended as a substitute for the advice of your broker, nor for that of your attorney. Please consult with them as appropriate. Okay. And so a lot of times, I'll have conversations with people, and then I'll get to a point where I realize, like, no, you haven't talked to anybody about this yet, right? And it's like, what did your broker say? And then they go, oh, I haven't talked to my broker. Okay, well, probably your broker's your first shot, right? Because I think your broker's probably got information for you, plus company policy and things like that. I mean, they've got to be good at what they do. So, and they're charging you to be there, so you might as well, get that counsel. So. That being said, our webinars are intended to be interactive. That means you have interactions with me during the webinar. I'm not able to go hot mic with everybody, and part of the reason behind that is that
my experience with Zoom is that once you unmute somebody, you can never really permanently mute them again. So invariably we end up in conversations with them in the bathroom, water running and stuff like that. So please utilize the Q&A button, okay, to ask questions or offer input. I do look forward to hearing from you. It makes my day when you ask questions. So please feel free. I want to help you. It also helps me to direct the channel that we're going to go in, especially today with open houses, because I want to know what your objections are. What do you, if you disagree with me on something, please pipe up. Nobody can see your question, by the way. I see it. It pops up on the screen. If I don't like your question, I'll just ignore it. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, I've rarely. I was just talking to somebody earlier. I've probably had to ignore one question in all the years I've been doing webinars, and it's just because it was so far off topic that we couldn't address it. So please, put it in there. Nobody can see it. Nobody can see you. And nobody can see the list, by the way. Somebody asked me that this morning. Nobody can even see who's on this webinar except me. I can see it while I'm doing the webinar, but that's about it. So this morning we're going to talk about, and this is the 29th. So this is the end of the first month of the 3-month summer. So I hope you're having a good time. And open houses are a great way to have a good time. And I'm just thinking off the top of my head while I'm sitting here that I've always told people, when you're going to do an open house, why would you do one from 1 to 4 on Sunday? And people say, well, that's because everybody does them on 1 to 4 on Sunday. I think you need to get that out of your head. I think let me ask you a question. Would you rather do an open house when there's more traffic and more likelihood of traffic, right? So humor me on this for just a second, okay? I will never get out of the calendar here, but all right. So I always did my open houses on Sunday. If I was going to do them on Sunday, I would do them 10 to 1 and 4 to 7. And why did I do that? Because I wanted to go to the beach for a couple hours, just kind of hang out, right? But 10 to 1, I got so much traffic, and then 4 to 7, I'd be coming back again, and then I'd get everybody leaving the beach, and they'd all come in, so wherever you are, people are doing things that 1 to 4 is not necessarily good timing. You know what I'm saying? And if anybody else is holding an open house, they're probably doing it 1 to 4, or I should say they're probably doing it 1:30 to 3:30, right? Because, as management, I would sit in the office and the agents would come in and, be like 1:15, and I set my watch by it. I mean, it's like, what's going on? Well, I got to go do an open house. Well, what time are you supposed to be there? Well, I'm supposed to be there at 1 o'clock. And it's like, it's 1:30 in the office and you're not at your open house and you're just here to pick up signs. Treat this professionally, okay, please. I mean, accountability is one of the worst things that we have in our industry. You want me to hold you accountable, you let me know, I will hold you accountable. But, you showing up at an open house, and then, of course, at 3:30, we're turning the lights off, we're closing it down because we're not getting the traffic that we would have liked. So, I avoid all that. Teresa, one of Linda's beloved agents, he followed my advice and did the open house 4 to 7. She says, I cannot believe I was never getting any traffic 1 to 4, but I did it 4 to 7, and she says I didn't get out of there at 7. I didn't get out of there until 9 o'clock. So especially in the summertime now, I'd be doing them later. But again, I want real traffic. Okay, I don't need to get 50 people to the open house necessarily. But the ones that come in, if I get one good one, I'm having a good day. How about 3 or 4 or 5 good ones, right? Because the people that stop in, the 10 to 1s and the 4 to 7s, are the ones that are seriously looking for property, and they don't want to get stuck in the quagmire that they perceive is what's going on between 1 and 4. Okay, and so plus, if there's anybody else out there, now you're sitting there hoping you're not, that they're coming to your house, but maybe the other person snagged them before they ever came to your house. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about that today too. But again, ask me questions and I will help you with that. So I think Sunday, if I was going to do, open houses, I would probably be doing them Friday and Monday because, you live in San Diego, you got to think outside the box. Friday and Monday is when people are coming into town to, to have that job interview, right? And then leaving on Monday. And so I want to catch them. I want to snag them when they're in town. And those are the ones the most likely looking for a house to buy. So anyway, without being a spoiler here, that's my theory. But again, I don't know. I saw a lot of houses. I kind of think I might have it right. So, okay, that being said, this afternoon, afternoon, we're going to talk about residential property management. Now, it's not intended to make you a property manager, but I am going to go over a lot of really important stuff and show you some cool forms and things like that. Again, before you do any kind of property management, you need to be talking to your broker. Make sure your broker allows it. And we'll talk about that this afternoon. Oh gosh, I have Tuesday in there. I messed that up. I'm sorry. It's not Tuesday, it's Thursday, because Tuesday is what? It's a holy day of obligation, right? It's a holiday. So we will not be having any classes on Tuesday. So this means Thursday, right? So Saturday's the 1st, Sunday's the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. The 6th is Thursday. I know I fixed it on the property management one, but I blew it here. I'm sorry. Maintaining records, reducing risk. And as most of you know, if you saw that webinar two months ago, it's going to be a whole new webinar. I mean, I've completely rewritten, I rewrite them every single time, and I'm not happy with things, so I fix things. Okay. And then I have other stuff I want to add to it. So, and then in the afternoon, we'll be doing all about disclosures. We'll talk about, why disclosures and why all of my court cases are almost always failure to disclose. And so, it's like, well, I thought I told them, what I needed to tell them. And then you get into a transaction, you realize that you don't even know what the minimum standard is. And so California, very different than other sides, like I'm a broker here. I'm a broker in Virginia. Virginia, it's caveat emptor, no obligation to disclose anything. In fact, the state creates a disclosure form for you. California, caveat vendor, right? Let the seller beware. And so we'll talk about that, and I'll go through some of the court cases and that keyed in on disclosure. So member benefits today. Thank you for joining us for our discussion of open house success. I want you to be rich, but I want you to be happy first. But I'm gonna help you get to that path. Mo Anderson, who was number 3 in the KW chain, I remember being in a meeting with her, and she said, this is years ago, and she says, money doesn't buy happiness. And I'm looking at her like, my mother used to say that, right? Money doesn't buy happiness. And it's like, why would you lie to a child when they're so impressionable? Right? But that was my mother. But anyway, Mo says, money doesn't buy happiness. It buys the things that buy happiness, right? And so I just thought that was a great comment. And so I kind of hung on to that for a while. So money buys the things that buy happiness. And so I want you to make as much money as you want to make. All right. Okay. So Albert Einstein coined the term. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that is a quote. Okay. And so do we do this every day? We do. If you've been doing open houses, I'm assuming you're here today because of the way you're doing your open houses right now isn't working. I can tell you that when I made my most money, it was open houses, and I wasn't doing them quite 7 days a week, but I was definitely doing them 2.5, 3 days a week. I would do Saturday, Sunday, and then I would do Friday, Monday, and I would fill those hours in there, and I've got a lot of stuff to do. If nobody's there, I've got a lot of stuff to do. But I had an agent who had got their license before I did, 1977, right? Got their license before I did, and finally, here he is circling back into real estate after being gone for 40 years, and he goes and does an open house, and he's back in the office an hour later. And I said, well, what happened? And he says, I did the open house for an hour. I put my sign out in the front of the yard, and nobody came. I said, in an hour? Okay. All right. So that was probably poor planning, right? So, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, because I want to show you how to make it a successful event. I don't think open houses are passive. I think they're active. I think you need to be actively trying to do business. Okay. I mean, you got your real estate license. I hope nobody told you that you would just sit. My dad, when I got my law degree, my father said, this is great, son. Now you just sit back and wait for the checks to start rolling in. I just kind of realistically knew that wasn't going to be true. They're just not going to, right? And again, I decided I just had so much fun in real estate that, halfway through my real estate career, now it's halfway today, right? Because I got my license in 79, but halfway through my career, I got my law degree, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that, right? I got the degree, I'll look good, right? But I'm not going to do that, because I think real estate is really the place to be. And again, I hope you share my enthusiasm. And if you don't, listen, I'll talk to you one-on-one. I won't charge you for it. You've got to be happy. Okay. Sometimes we keep doing things the way that we've always done them. Those are the people that really worry me, right? Because those are the ones that well, we've always done it this way. I know, but you've got to break with that tradition. You've got to start doing things the right way, and you have to adjust, right? And so, hey, I'm a poster child for adjustment. Okay, so again, we expect the same, expect a different result. And so, if you're going to those open houses every weekend and you're not getting any traffic, you need to rethink it. You know, if you're eating salads every day and you're not losing weight, you might want to rethink it, right? I mean, there's just different things like that that we have to start thinking about, okay? So if you've always done open houses a certain way, can you do me a favor, make me a promise? May I ask that you keep your mind open for something different, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you some approaches that it was fascinating, the things that I learn every day. I was in a webinar this morning in, where was I? Linda, where was I? Fredericksburg, in a webinar, and I came, the gal there used to, a good friend of ours, 25 years now, from California, and I learned so much, and I was just there to kibitz, right? So I'm going to talk to you about some of those things here today too. So holding an open house, like real estate, is not a passive business. Okay, it is not passive, and yet what we do is we put a sign in front of the house, we sit inside the house, we play video games, we do whatever, but are we really trying to meet people? Okay, right? So floor time's kind of gone away. A lot of people have, a lot of companies have offed the floor time, right? Because why? Well, the internet kind of stepped in and made it so people were going to begin the research process ahead of time. I can still make money doing floor time, but I'm going to go outside, knock on, I'm going to open up the door and talk to them out of the window, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit in there, wait passively for them to come in. So when I'm telling you that, think about that. If you're doing your open house that way, if you're just sitting in the house waiting for people to come in. Now, I've had people tell me it works. Okay, good. What is it? A broken clock is right twice a day. Okay. All right. So, it reminds me of some things that I've done in my career that I've told people. It's like I had an agent come into my office and she says, "Hey, Kevin," she says, you were right." And I said, "What's that?" And she's got this grin on her face. She says, "You said that even a blind squirrel finds nuts now and again." And so she says, "I found one." So she's doing open houses. She's getting clients, it's like, because nobody else is doing them. Okay. So even a blind squirrel finds nuts now and again. Let's put this another way. All right. Real estate is a full contact sport. You need to be in front of people, folks. You are not going to make any money sitting at your house playing on the computer. All right. So, how many times have you heard me tell you this? You need to go someplace where people are. All right. I did a talk yesterday, and I told him, get one of those little decal covers for your laptop. I got one for Linda. She didn't like it because she said I couldn't get any of my work done. Why? Because people coming up and asking me all these real estate questions, because the laptop cover said ask me a real estate question. So they'd come up and ask her about real estate. So Linda runs brokerages now, so but she definitely did not want to work with people that asked her questions about real estate. So and yet she probably knows more than any broker I know. So she's really good. But make yourself visible. Okay, I'm wearing a shirt with a logo on it. Are you? I mean, does people know what you do for a living, or are you a secret agent? All right, so it's a full contact sport. So the more energy you put into doing your open house, right, the more likely you will have a positive outcome. Okay, and so that's something I usually say at the end, but I'm telling you that you are more likely to have a positive outcome if you actually believe you're going to do okay. So Joe Gelli, and I understand a lot of you might not know who he is. I call him the grandfather of real estate in San Diego. Joe's been around since the beginning of time, and I'm pretty sure he's still alive, I hope, but he used to always say, if you're flat broke and out of money, you need to do open houses 7 days a week. And I have to agree with him. I really do. And that was how I made my money. And it was just that very basic principle. When you come into the open house, I've got them. I've got a captive audience. All right. So let's talk about the 3 stages of open houses. All right. So we're going to talk about the before. How would you get things set up before you do the open house? How about the during? I want to talk to you about the during part of the open house. And then how about the after? Because folks, your whole real estate open house career can't be only about the during. You follow what I'm saying? It has to be about your preparation for it in advance. It has to be about what you did when you were done with the open house. Your job is not over when the bell strikes, and you're going to turn into a pumpkin if you continue to talk real estate with people. Okay, so I want to talk about the three stages of it. All right, so it's all in the preparation. So when I say the before, it's all in the preparation. The time and energy that you spend in preparation makes all the difference in the outcome. It's kind of like that listing appointment. The more prepared you are, the more likely you are to have a good result. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the before. Okay. So I want you first, and again, it's really, really important. Check with your broker. I want you to confirm with your broker a number of things. First of all, your marketing pieces. You need to pass your marketing by your broker. Now, I know some of us have been in the business a long time. We're just not used to doing that kind of thing. You would be shocked at what I see. Okay, so people. I was talking to a broker yesterday, and the broker said to me, my agents are they're doing this and they're doing that. And I go, listen, you need to stop talking to me about that because you're probably going to lose your license here pretty quick. So it's like you need to take control of that. So you should be passing your marketing pieces by your broker. We had an agent in Linda's office because I don't have an office. An agent in Linda's office who in Linda's office, everybody has to send the proof to Linda. And so on the postcard that she was getting ready to send out, it said, get out of the neighborhood while you still can. And so it's like, hold on a second. And so, quick, don't do that. And then got on the phone and said, understand that sounds like blockbusting. It sounds like you are panic selling, right? Those are big DRE questions on the state exam and something that they enforce, I assure you. And I said, so what are you trying to say? And she says, they're building a water treatment plant next door to the community. And so I was just telling people to sell their homes before the water treatment plant came in. And I'm sitting here thinking of a number of things. One of them was, of course, well, you're going to have to tell them about the water treatment plant anyway, but all right, the buyer, that is. But I said, well, but you understand that the way that it is written, it is written like you were telling people that there are bad things happening in the neighborhood and they need to get out. Okay. And so the way you wrote it, it may not have been discriminatory intent, but it had discriminatory effect. Okay. And so again, remember that all those risk management hats you saw on my second page there. Okay. So risk management is a big thing for me. And so we rewrote that ad essentially on a postcard. We rewrote that so that it sounded better. It sounded right. Again, remember, discriminatory intent. She was not intending to discriminate against any of the protected classes, except maybe the protected class that doesn't like to live near a water treatment plant, but it had the discriminatory effect. Okay. And so I'd rather defend the case before it ever becomes one than to have to, deal with the problem after it is, right? Remember, we talk about risk management versus damage control. So if you ever have a question about something, send me an email, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. Again, I'm not going to get in front of your broker, but I'm happy to offer my 2 cents worth. So marketing piece is very important. Doing open houses for other brokers. I get a lot of questions on this. We don't do it. We don't allow it. And Linda doesn't. I'm sorry, I'm not the broker there. I'm just the broker associate, but Linda's the broker. And we have a number of reasons why we don't like that. And part of it is that we think it might be deceptive. So for example, and the DRE has a position on it as well. So DRE has said that there may be potential issues with undisclosed agency. And what does that mean? That means that you're holding an open house and it's got the blue company sign in front of it, but you're with the red company, right? And so you're not the same, you're not under the same brokerage. So the advertising is saying it's a blue company listing. The blue company is representing the seller, but then when they come in on the open house, it's the red company that is actually holding the open house. And so DRE says that they knew what they were getting when they came into the open house. They thought they were getting the blue people, but in fact now they're getting the red people. And so how are you going to fix that? So I think there is a fix. And again, I don't want to have to fix things, but I think there's a fix in having an agency disclosure form there. So I ask you, are you going to do that? I mean, if you're not going to do it, then I would be careful about this. Talk to your broker. First of all, is your broker going to allow other people, other agents from outside agencies hold your listings open versus is it okay with your broker to hold other brokerages listings open? And then you're going to have to find one that will allow that. And most of the big ones, at least that I'm aware of, don't allow it. And so sometimes they don't communicate that very well with their agents, but most of them don't. Most of them, we worry about that agency situation. And I'm telling you, almost 99% of my trial work is agency issues. Okay. All right. So if you're gonna do something like that, it's okay. Check with your broker. All right. Real important. Okay. Google the neighborhood. I think you should look at the neighborhood before you go out there. And I'm not telling you that in a demographic kind of way. It's just that I want you to know what your surroundings look like. So no matter where I go, everywhere I go, I'm always alert. You know, as I say to Linda, I've always got the four corners, right? I always know where all my corners are on the car. I always know where everything is around me. That's really important for me. It's not a control issue. It's more of a safety issue. And so, you know, I don't have to worry about sniper fire, you know, so, but, you know, I know where my pins are. I know where the four corners are. And so I think you should look at the neighborhood. And part of the reason for looking at the neighborhood is that again, visually. So, you know, at the map, which is, we have advantages. Lynn just asked me a few minutes ago, she said, you know, is real estate different today? She says, you were doing real estate back in the 70s and the 80s. Is it different today? It is absolutely different today. And she says, is it easier or harder? I said, I think real estate is so easy today because I think that we've got all the tools that you need to make things easy. Imagine going through the blue book and setting up appointments. We take 4 or 5 hours to set up appointments, right? And then the client wouldn't show up and you just want to put a contract out on them, right? But you know, the answer is really, I think it's easier today. And so think about it that way. Think about the tools that you have. You could look at a satellite picture of the neighborhood, essentially Google it, right? That kind of thing. You know, versus my dad who worked on Sputnik. It's like, that's a whole nother thing. It's like the public didn't have access to that, right? So check out the neighborhood visually. Make sure you're looking around, get your four corners, you need to know where your ingress and your egress are. But I think you also need to know where you're going to put your signs, things like that. Do you know what's outside? What does this take? 2 minutes, right? But so many people that I know, they just go there and then they just their body, right? That's it. But it's like, do you know where the local shopping is going to be? Do you know where the theaters are? What are the kind of questions? Where are the schools? You know, those are the kind of questions that people are going to ask you when they come into the house. Okay, all right. So drive the neighborhood. Let's talk about drive around. Okay, because you got to be looking around. Let's talk about your safety. Prepare an escape route. So, you know, I'm not just talking about, you know, people chasing you around the house, but that's a possibility. But I'm talking about fires and things like that. You know, if there is something, are you visually aware of what your exit strategy is going to be? Okay, there could be a lot of reasons why you got to get out of there fast. Do you know what that is, or are you going to be trapped? And I can tell you, you know, living in Del Mar, there are communities in Carmel Valley that you could go around in circles all day and not get out. And I think that, you know, you should know what your escape plan is going to be. Okay. And that escape route, by the way, is from the house, maybe, because you need to know what the house is going to be like. And, you know, how am I going to get out of here if I get in trouble, but also from the neighborhood itself. Okay. And we're going to talk about in the house part of it in just a second, because safety is kind of a big issue for me. All right. I was on the MLS Realtor Safety Advisory Committee for NAR. And so it's just a hot button for me. Make sure that you have your reliable cell phone. Okay, reliable. All right. And I would, again, you just went to the neighborhood, you're driving around the neighborhood. Did you check it out and make sure that your cell phone has good signal strength? Right? Not that you're not going to hold the open house necessarily, but you might have to come up with an alternative form of communication, like signal flares or something like that, or maybe even a landline to talk to people. But do you have signal strength? Okay. Is it fully charged? These are things, you know, how many times I've talked to my sister on her cell phone. It's the first time I talked to her in 2 months, and she goes, uh-oh, my battery's dying. like your battery's dying. I mean, you're in the middle of the day, your battery's, she never charges her phone. So it dies. I got to wait 2 hours to finish my sentence. Okay. So make sure it's fully charged. And that's not just for, making sure you're convenient and you're comfortable, but also that you're safe. Okay. All right. Keep it in your possession at all times. I think you should have your cell phone with you. Do I need to say anything else about that? And we'll talk about some other safety things. Carry on a conversation when you're showing property. So if you're showing property, somebody comes into your open house and you're concerned about your own safety, answer the call, right? Take the call and say, hey, can you hang on a second? I've got somebody here. Don't hang up on them. Hang on, can you hang on for a second? And then carry on with the person that's there, but so that they're aware that somebody is still on the phone. Right, somebody else that's listening about their conversation as well, somebody who can hypothetically identify them in the event of an emergency. Okay, all right, okay, so carry on that conversation when you're showing the property, so that the receiver can hear the conversation. Did you notify someone that you're going to be at the open house? Does everybody know that you're going to be there today? I would think that you're marketing the fact that you're holding the house open, but are you really making sure that someone is, who is watching out for you is aware that you're going to be at that open house? Okay. All right. So how about the neighbors? All right. Let me just, whoopsie daisy. I lost it. Sorry. What did I do? Kevin. What did I do here? Oh, darn it. Okay. Hang on a second. I'm sorry. Share. All right, I screwed that up, didn't I? Okay, so we're going to go back here. We're going to go from the current slide. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so did you notify somebody that you were going to be at the open house? How about the neighbors? At a minimum, of course, you would need to have them know that you're at the open house. Somebody at your office, maybe. Did you prearrange a calling time, hourly? Again, I'm hoping you're not doing the open house yourself, but I want you to be prepared for it, because I want you to be prepared for the world of possibilities, as I always say. You don't communicate at a predetermined time, they're going to contact authorities, right? Okay. I know we all think nothing can happen to us. I don't care, male, female. I've had some really ugly situations in my career, and I was just glad that some of them I survived. This business is not necessarily a dangerous business, but got to keep our wits about us as well. Okay, so have that communication set up. Maybe once an hour you check in. At least that gives maybe 55 minutes of lead time for the bad guy to get away. That kind of thing. Preparation. So I would get a walk list. From CRS Tax, perhaps. I mean, they've got a good walk list. Go into the tax function and then pull. In fact, let's do that, because I actually want to show you a couple of my thoughts on this. So let's go to SDAR. I'm going to go to the login. I'm going to log in. I forgot that this was part of what I was going to talk to you about today. So now I lost my train of thought. Where did I go? All right. The walk list. So I go to CRS. I'm going to log into Paragon. Okay. I can log into Paragon. I can log into CRS data. Okay. I'm going to log into CRS data. And then here's my information. And so I want to create a walk list. And so I'm going to go over here I'm just going to grab a property I've already done this with. I pull that up, and so, but now what I want, see here where it says prospecting. Everybody see that? Okay, I'm going to click on prospecting, and then from prospecting, I'm going to wait for the program to load. I can go down here. I'm going to say submit. So I want everybody that's on that street, Spindrift Del Mar phase 2, and then here's my list. Here's everybody. Okay. And so what can I do with that list? Well, I can go down here to the bottom. I can actually proceed to labels and exports. I click on that, and then it says, all right, do you want to export the file, or do you want to create labels? Well, I want to export the file. If I'm going too fast, please slow me down. Okay. But because I'd wanted you to see this. So I've got CRS prospecting export. I'm going to hit save. And so what's that going to do? That's going to pull up, hang on, I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to mess with your computer. Where is it? Here it is. So there's my list, right? And if you've got any kind of familiarity at all with Excel, here it is. Everybody's in the Excel program. Okay, so this is my exported list. And so now I can go door to door. I'm going to change. I'm not really so concerned about how many bedrooms and bathrooms it has. I just want to be able to get a hold of the or know who it is that I'm talking with in the house. If I can get that to work, there we go. I'm gonna expand that. You see what I'm saying? So as I'm going door to door, 801, 803, 805, 807, okay? I've got the names of the people, and I'm gonna put this on a spreadsheet because I want to take notes on it, right? So as I learn things, I always say, take everything with you, take it in on a clipboard, make it look like you're a survey taker. This is the before now, all right? And I want to be knocking on doors, okay? And so I want to be talking to everybody. So that's how I'm going to create that list. So that's out of my CRS tax data. The other thing that you can do, of course, is go to, you can contact your friendly neighborhood title rep. They can provide you lists today, but there can be no expectation of remuneration, which means obviously big words that I did not make up. But that, it's not, they're not giving you the list because they expect you to give them title orders, wink, wink, that kind of thing. They have to give them free to anybody that asks for them. Otherwise, they can't give them to anybody. Okay, make sense? All right. Questions so far? In fact, let me grab a drink quick. Questions? This is good stuff. We're just getting started. Okay, this is your opportunity. Talk to the Grand Master. All right, okay. Just kidding, of course. Excel friendly, probably easier. I've seen so many people do this. They were so successful at it. They just put everything down there. They expanded the category, notes, and then they would just write things in. They pick up the kid's name, things like birthdays or stuff like that. This is why I tell you, if you're going to do an open house, you want to be successful, don't be doing them randomly. Don't be doing, today you do one in Oceanside, tomorrow you do one in La Mesa, the next day you do one in Escondido, the next day you're doing one down in Imperial Beach. You're never going to get any traction. You need to focus on your neighborhood. This is about owning your neighborhood, right? Remember, you want to be the mayor of your area. Okay. So I am very well known in Del Mar. I walk the streets, I talk to people, everything is, hi, how you doing, Bob? That kind of thing. That's what you want to try to do. I always tell you that, for farming success, you want to either you want to farm where you live or where you want to live. Okay. So I think that this is something that you can do long term. Okay. So Excel friendly, put it on a clipboard, knock on doors, invite people to your open house. Real simple. Hey folks, I'm going to have an open house. I would do it just prior to the open house. So like you're going to hold your open house on Sunday. Let's just take Sunday. Okay. Saturday, I'm knocking on doors, inviting people to the open house. Okay. So, I'm going to have an open house this weekend, anybody that you can think of that wants, so there's no law against that conversation. There's no do not call list. There's no do not knock list. Although, believe it or not, city of San Diego has some rules against solicitation. I'll never forget Diana Kokoskis making a comment. She said she was knocking on a door one day and the person, and they had a no soliciting sign. So she knocks on the door anyway. And so the person opens the door, and because that usually means, don't knock on my door because I bought something from the last person that sold me something at the door. And so she says, they opened the door, they said, can't you see the sign? It says no soliciting. And her response was, I thought it said no smoking. I thought that was hysterically funny, right? So you learn something new from everybody, okay? All right, so give those who answer a written invitation. Have some kind of little postcard or something, just a little tiny 3x5. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Love to see you at our open house. Here's the address. Here's the time we're going to do it. And then please be there at that time, okay? All right, something simple. Don't make it really complicated, but it has to be memorable, all right? And so like I had Kylie Campbell, who was one of our agents back 30, 25 years ago. And so she would take those little cards, she'd put a little hole, punch a hole in the corner, and she would take a little string, a little ribbon thing and wrap a Hershey's Kiss around it. And so she'd knock on the door, she'd hand them the card, and then they didn't know what to do, but they were getting a piece of chocolate. They knew that. And so they would sit there and listen to her while they were eating the chocolate, and they loved it. So I just thought that was such a great idea of hers, right? And so, give them something, be memorable. They're never going to forget the person that knocked on the door. Hopefully, they remember you 10 years from now when you're needing their business. But be sure to use social media. And I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to show you a couple things in a second, but be sure you're using social media. Now, and somebody said this to me this morning in a webinar that I was in on the East Coast, and they said, listen, if you're not comfortable with social media, don't do social media. And I've got to agree. Okay, that your whole career does not pin on any one thing. I don't do Facebook, I don't do Tweaker, I do LinkedIn. I probably get most of my news from Instagram, only because there's funny memes in there. But I got to tell you something, I don't do all that other stuff, and I'm doing pretty well. Okay, but you should use some form of social media, and if you're not doing it, pay somebody to do it. If you don't know how to do it, pay somebody to do it. But it's not the end of your career if you can't figure out how to do Facebook or whatever they call it. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? I don't want you to worry about that kind of stuff. Okay. All right. At least a few days before the big event, not necessarily the day of, although you could do it again the day of, but you want to do it at least a couple of days ahead of time, so that they know it's coming. Okay. So I mean, I've had people hold open houses where we're going to hold this open house from 1 o'clock to 1:15, but then down the street from 1:15 to 1:30, and then a couple doors over, 1:30 to 1:45, that kind of thing. All right, I guess that works, right? It's a lot of advertising, but okay, I get it. So again, I put in Facebook, LinkedIn, Tweaker, Instagram, those kinds of things. I'm seeing a lot more real estate agents using LinkedIn now, and put it in the MLS as an open house. And so I put in there, utilize extensively advertising remarks. So I want to show you something here. And we're going to go back into the MLS really quick. And I'm going to go, here it is. I'm going to click on Paragon. Okay. And from Paragon, I'm going to, let me see here. I'm going to create a listing. Okay. So I'm going to tell a fib. I'm going to say I have a listing. So the new listing, here we go. It's going to be a residential listing. And I want to show you a really neat trick. So this is as if I'm creating a listing. Now, by the way, our MLS, I love our MLS. So the people are so good to me. I mess up stuff. They help me fix it, right? Things like that. Don't be afraid of your MLS. They're probably the nicest people you're ever going to meet. And Kelly over there, I love Kelly. She's been there forever. And she's so good. I mean, she's just really a treat to work with. But they give me access codes and stuff to be able to create listings, and I don't really use them, but I want to show you something here. So I'm going to have my listing. I'm going to close all of these windows really quick. See here, the red button closes everything. I'm going to go down to the remarks section. I'm going to open up just that window, or what we refer to as the container. Okay, these individual things in here are called fields, but the big picture there is the container. You see a whole bunch of containers. Obviously a lot more fields. And so I'm going to hold my open house. Now, this is really good if you're the seller's agent, okay? Because you're going to go in here, and here's the secret. See this part right here where it says advertising remarks? You can put almost anything you want to in there. Now, there's a little question mark over here that says, here's what goes in there. But the point behind creating this field, and I remember Ray Ewing, who was the president of Sandicor, came to me and he says, we're getting ready to launch this thing called advertising remarks, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. And so I sat down, nobody knows that people talk to me, right? So I'm sitting down with him, and he shows me this thing, and I said, I love this. I mean, think about it for a second. So they sell your listing, you put a listing in the MLS, and they sell it to the third-party aggregators and the syndicators, and they get like 2 cents a page. That's where your MLS really makes their money, right? But advertising remarks, we realized that after we sold our listing to a lot of these companies, they would sell a place next to the listing to real estate agents who were willing to spend a lot of money to have it look like it was their listing. Okay, well, I want people calling me because I'm the seller's agent, right? And who's going to know the property better than I do? And some agent from Iowa? No, probably not. So the advertising remarks was what we created to defeat that. And so the rule is that when we sell these listings to the third parties, the syndicators and aggregators, they have an obligation to post this in a conspicuous place, usually right underneath the listing, even though they got somebody else's picture up here saying, hey, I'm the agent. In here, you could write almost anything. Right. So I always say, please contact official, in caps, listing seller's agent, right? Open house on Sunday, 2 to 4, more pictures at, branded tours. You can put stuff in here that you may not put in the other places. Okay. So, again, no disparaging remarks about other brokerages, please. But if you click on that little drop down, that question mark, it'll tell you all the stuff you can put in here. So you're going to do your open house on Sunday. I would put this in here, right? Okay, so this is place number 1. All right, place number 2. Hey, look at that. Add, edit, open house over here on the left-hand side. Everybody see that? I'm going to click on that, add edit open house. What does it do? I'm going to have a new open house. I'm going to click on, this is open house, not tour. Tour's the next one, but that'll be for like Tuesday or Thursday or whatever day your local area does their tour. So here's my, I can do a live stream URL. I'm going to pick a date. So what is it? Sunday? You want Sunday? We're going to make Sunday's going to be the 2nd. Well, it's already the 2nd. We're not going to make it the 2nd. So it's already the 2nd. We're going to click on that. It's going to be what? 1 to 4. I'm going to go down here to 4. And then I'm going to go Pacific time. I'm putting, comments, really beautiful home with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Refreshments, yes, no, why, and I mean, you've only got 3 characters there. I would probably put yes, and then bring a bunch of water, a bottle of water from the store. But you want it to be memorable, but you want yourself to be more memorable. Remember that you have the listing at this moment, but you want to be in real estate for 10, 20, and 30 years, I hope, right? Like I said, I'm having a ball, okay? So this is how you advertise your property through the multiple listing service to not only to other brokers, but this is the open house. It used to be that we sent this out to all the different, huge list of social media, but this tells the agents that you're having an open house, okay? That advertising remarks tells the public that you're having an open house. Does everybody follow me on that? Any questions about any of that? Totally compliant. You know me, I'm in charge of compliance, and that's the way that I would do it. And it's the way we've done it. So if I'm breaking rules, please let me know. Okay, everybody good? All right, I'm gonna click out of that, and I'm gonna take me back over. I've always wanted to show people that, and I just never have had a chance to get around to it. So utilize extensively advertising remarks. I'm a fly in here. That's crazy. Easier if you're the seller's agent, as I just showed you. Broadcast it to your database. I was in a presentation with another gal who says, "Do you have a database or do you have a mailing list? Which one is it?" If you think about it, they're 2 different things. So are you sending things out to your database, then it becomes a mailing list, okay? All right, so broadcast it to your database somehow, who your friends are. I know of a broker in the area that does everything they do it on Facebook. Okay, good. Broadcast it on Facebook, have a ball. Everybody's reading their stuff. It's okay, right? Prepare your open house signs. And again, I say before, but I want you to prepare your open house signs, not the day of the open house. You need to be buying open house signs. How much are open house signs? Anybody know? What, 25 bucks? Think about it for a second. Where could you run an ad with so much exposure for $25? Okay, I think that's the best money ever spent. And I would put some coin into it. Robert Weichel, who is a super agent, a broker like myself, and he does it up with the signs. Yeah, this truck wrapped, the whole thing. Impressive thing to watch. Okay, but you need to prepare your signs in advance. And if you need references to sign companies, send me a thing and I'll send you my list. Not 5 minutes before you're supposed to be there. Where, like I said, they're coming through my office at 1:30. It's like, I know where you're going. I know you're going to the open house. I know you're already a half hour late from when you've advertised the open house. I already know you should have been there at 10 o'clock, right? You should be coming back to the office at 1 o'clock after your open house, but okay, I get that. All right, so again, make sure that your signs are DRE and NAR compliant. And so, without ruffling any feathers, I have had brokers call me. They've received a cite and fine. A cite and fine is what the DRE sends you when you do something that they really don't want to put a lot of effort into it, but they want you to send them a check. And I think the average check, Wayne Bell said, I think it was like $2,800. So send us a check for $2,800, and then we won't investigate you any further. When the DRE receives a complaint about an agent or about a broker, they're obligated by law to respond to it. Okay, really, really important concept. And so this big broker in town got this, this DRE cite and fine. It says, send us a check for $10,000. And so he calls me up and he says, what should I do? And I said, send him a check for $10,000. He goes, you're kidding, that's $10,000. I said, it's either that or that if you don't, then they go ahead and they start the investigation. And the DRE requires, the rule says that you have to pay their cost of investigating you. So I'd probably send them $10,000. Now, where did that come from? Well, the complaint came from an agent complaining against another agent who was holding open houses using generic signs. So they just said open house, didn't have any reference to the DRE number, no reference to the fact that they were a realtor, no reference to the company name, their name, stuff like that. Nothing is on the sign except open house. And the DRE says that's a violation. okay, on all the issues I just told you, all right? So you got to make sure your signs are DRE, NAR compliant, spend a couple of bucks, check with your broker ahead of time. I know it's expensive. I probably wouldn't buy a bunch of A-frames. Linda learned that when she first got her real estate license, and she was so excited. She had all these signs made and had A-frames. You know, the A-frames were expensive, right? And so sure enough, her first open house, 4 of the A-frames disappeared. That was like $100. That was back then. Linda's been in real estate a long time, but you know, I would say spring for the money. You don't have to get, you know, a real high quality sign, but just something that obviously makes you proud to be where you're with. Question, a good question, Vanessa, do they have to include both DRE and NAR numbers? No. Okay, so, and thank you, because we're going to bifurcate that just a little bit. NAR and DRE's NAR is code of ethics, DRE is regulation or law, and they have the same objective. They want the public to know who you're with. So for NAR, let's talk about that first. So NAR wants all of your signage to have a reference to the brokerage that you're with, and DRE wants that too. So that one starts with NAR. Okay, so DRE's position is we just want the public to readily find you. Well, that's really easy if you put the DRE number on there. The question is, do you need both? Do you need the DRE number, your DRE number, and your broker's DRE number? I'm not sure that there's, you know, but we have what we call spotters. So the DRE goes around, you know, they don't have a lot of money to spend on this kind of stuff, but they do have people that go around looking at signs and making sure that they're compliant. And if they're not compliant, they take a picture of the sign. Okay, you don't want that, right? They send you the picture, and so send them the check, trust me. Or you can hire a lawyer, and it costs you more money. The retainer will be more money than you could have sent them a check for. But okay, but your question's a really good one. So DRE wants to know your numbers on there because they want the public to readily find you on the internet. So, you know, if I got your DRE number, then I can go on to, you know, dre.ca.gov, and I can look up who you are and who you're with, right? But they also want you must advertise your affiliation with the brokerage. And so some of the problems we've had recently is like some of these teams are advertising themselves and not having a reference to their brokerage at all. Well, that's going to be an NAR violation, right? Plus DRE says we think it's being deceptive because we think that you're giving the public the impression that you're a broker. And if you're not the broker, then you must put the broker's contact information in there. And again, I teach this in several states, and I got to tell you that when I'm teaching, you know, on the East Coast, you know, they don't really care, right? Or you brand. In fact, the broker will tell you, brand yourself. I don't care. California, no, they want them to be able to find you pretty quick. Okay, so Vanessa, your question's a really good one. So you don't need your NAR number, right? So whatever that number is, you know, mine's what is it, 182001251 something. You know, that's my number. I just happen to remember the number. I've been doing it long enough. It doesn't change. Your number will stay the same. So that's your NAR, your NERDS number, we call it. You don't need that on your signs. You do need your DRE number. I would say have your DRE number on your sign. If you've got room and you want to have bragging rights, then put your broker's DRE number on there, but you got to have your broker's name or their logo on there. Okay. And that's on your sign. Okay. And so check with the DRE website. The rules change, but that's the basics of it. Okay. Everybody good? Vanessa, am I okay? Good question. Thank you. I appreciate you asking the question. That's a good one. But you need to, you know, your open house signs are a reflection of you. They're a reflection of who you are. So make them pretty, make them nice. You know, again, I got people that, you know, I just came across a bunch. I didn't realize I have so many signs. And, you know, they just keep popping up in places, but that's because I buy them by the bulk, right? You got 50 signs. Okay. All right. It's a lot of money, but how many times you got to go out and buy 50 more signs, right? So I think I'm still going through the batch 50 of them for the last 10 years. All right, so make sure they're DRE and NAR compliant. Check with your broker ahead of time. But I know we had agents in Linda's office who had gone out and paid a bunch of stuff without checking, and they had to throw them all away because they didn't have the required information on them. Okay, all right, okay. And again, DRE's position changes, so you know, get the current information by going to their website. I'll help you find it if you want, but make sure you've got. But for sure, you're going to need the DRE number. For sure, you're going to need the reference to the brokerage. Your name's probably a good idea, but you've all seen those yellow signs around town that say, you know, buyer, investor needs apprentice and all that kind of stuff. If that's a brokerage and they're not identifying themselves as a brokerage, it's going to be clearly a violation. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and clearly no DRE numbers on there. Plan their placement. This is one of the most important things that you can do. Remember that perspiration leading to, preparation leading to perspiration. Okay. Plan where you're going to put them. So remember when I had you Google the property? Remember the area around it? Take a look at that map, and I'm wishing I'd pulled up a map to show you. I guess it'd be easy enough, but look at where you want to put your pin, where you want to put your flags, okay, or whatever. I wouldn't put balloons, by the way. It was a good point made by one of the speakers in Virginia yesterday. And she said, don't do balloons, do spinny wheels or do flags or anything that's going to catch people's attention. But balloons, they're one and done, as she says. It's going to be the end of them. But get a little spinny, what do you call those, weather vanes or whatever, things that spin around, eye-catching things. That's what you're looking for. So, but plan where you're going to put them. Take a look at your map. You put a pin in the property address. There's the house, pin in it, right? Okay. And then take yourself out from there. Where are you going to go to? We're going to go to a major thoroughfare, right? Someplace where people are going to come from. So like, for example, in Del Mar, where I live, I'm going to, at a minimum, I'm going to bring them in from Camino del Mar, right? Whether it's east or west of Camino del Mar, I'm going to bring them in from that location. So I'm going to put that's how I'm going to tell how many signs I'm going to have. But I think you should have 50 signs. Now I'm going to tell you in this webinar, I think you should have a minimum of 20. All right. But where you put them is the most important thing. I had a guy, I actually remember his name, from 1991, who was one of our agents with the Rock people. And he put so many open house signs out that pretty soon everybody got to thinking that he owned the neighborhood. And he didn't. He had no listing. It was another agent's listing with the company. And so he didn't have any listings, but he was trying to get listings. And that was one of his biggest things that he ever did. He just put a ton of signs out there, but placement is the most important thing. And so what do I need to know? Well, okay, I know that there are 5 turns before I get to that major thoroughfare, or 5, if you're coming the other way, 5 turns before I get to the house. So isn't that where you're going to put where you're going to want to put your signs, right? You want to put them at turning points. Okay. And so plan the placement ahead of time. Most people just get there and just try to go, and it's like, oh no, I'm going to run out of signs before I can get them to the house. And so if they started it on Camino del Mar and they only brought 4 signs, and 4 of them don't get them to the house, now what are you going to do? I could go back and get the signs, bring them back again. I think you should have 20 at least in your trunk. Okay. All right. So knock on doors on the houses of street corners. Now, nobody's ever going to tell you this, but I think you need to be knocking on the doors. Okay. Why? Because you want to ask for permission. Okay. Nobody has ever done that. Okay. Where you plan to place your open house sign, ask for permission. Okay. You're probably the only person who's ever done it. Are they going to remember you? Yes. And why is that important? It's important because later on, you're going to go back to them and you're going to thank them for letting you want to check, make sure I want to make sure I don't put this through the sprinkler. Okay. All right, good. Okay. I mean, nobody's ever been that. They've had people put their thing through the sprinkler. Now, you don't have a right to put things on their property. It is not your right of way. Okay. It is their property. I got a question came across the other day about, the sidewalk in front of the house. It's on your property. You own the sidewalk. If something goes wrong, you are probably going to have a problem with it. A lot of people think, oh, well, the city put it there. It's like, I know they put it on their easement. Okay, they can do that, but you're going to have to take care of it if there's a slip and fall. Okay, so, but ask for permission. That's the important thing. And then when you go back later on, I'm going to have you give them a coffee card or something like that, some token of appreciation for them letting you put your sign there. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I have people still today, 10 years later, sending me the mail that they get in their mailbox. Here's all the stuff that the real estate agents are sending me, right? Because I don't live there. And so they send me all the stuff they're getting in their mailbox. Now I know who's competing with me in that neighborhood. Okay, so I want that. We call that a bird dog. That person becomes a bird dog for us. They become somebody who's looking around. Hey, you know what? I just want to let you know that they're doing a garage sale this weekend. They plan to put their house on the market on Sunday, right? Okay, I think that'd be good information to have. Okay, all right. Okay, they will remember you forever. You will return later, give them a gift card. Now, one of the things I did pick up with this other presenter was maybe not a gift card. I say like a $5 coffee card, okay, but maybe not a coffee card. Maybe what you give them is a where'd Linda go? Maybe what you give them is a lottery ticket. I just got this the other day. I'm like, what a great idea! I can give them a $5 card. They don't even know it's a $5 card, right? I didn't tell them ahead of time, but maybe a lottery ticket. Maybe they have a chance of winning millions. Okay, staple your card to it, that kind of thing. All right. So, okay, it works. Invite them to the open house, make them feel part of the party. Okay. I think you should have refreshments. The more signs you put out, the more traffic you will get. So I had an agent, Linda had an agent up in Temecula who would, he had like 500 signs. This guy is an animal, right? I mean, it was amazing what he would do, amazing the traffic. Our whole company's up there helping him with the open house. Because why? You put up 500 open house signs and everybody's coming, okay? So are you going to do that? Maybe, maybe not, but it was a great principle. Later on we found out half of them were generic, so I wouldn't do that, right? But, and I asked him at one point, I said, you're in Temecula, where are you signing him from what? The Interstate 8? I mean, that's a long ways, right? But everybody was there. He had to have help, okay? How'd you like to have that kind of traffic at an open house and you need to have other people come in and help you? Okay. All right. And you collect referral fees from them and stuff like that. Okay. Put out at least 20. All right. And not 500, but I put out at least 20. I know there's a price point, when you buy signs, there's usually a price point like at 25 or 50 or stuff like that. I would say if you're planning on being in real estate for a period of time, I would go ahead, probably get a heck of a discount at that. Okay. All right. So 20 signs at least. Now is not the time to be frugal. Your DRE compliant open house signs are probably the best marketing investment you're ever going to do. Okay, people drive by it. Why do you think when what Del Mar calls the silly season or the silly time, when it comes time for an election and you have all those signs everywhere, they just give up. I mean, they're all in the right of way. City of Del Mar just doesn't even bother enforcing it, right? They just say, you know what, it's the silly time. I don't know where they got that from. Okay, but literally, why do you think people put all those signs out there? Well, they put all those signs out because people actually look at them. And there's an old saying in politics, and that is all press is good press as long as they spell your name right. So you just want to make sure your name is spelled right on the sign. Remember what we just talked about a second ago, Vanessa, right? Do I want my name on the sign? I absolutely do. I want to be DRE compliant, but it's also good for me, right? I'm running for mayor. Okay. I want everybody to know I'm running for mayor. All right. So make sure your name is on your sign. Everybody good? Lead people in from major intersections. I talked about that already. It's all in the perspiration. Okay, so we're gonna jump ahead now. We're gonna talk about the during. So we just talked about the before. Now I want to talk to you about the during. And this is where most of us make the mistake. Most of us, we're all about the during. We're not about the before or the after. And I think the real money is made in the before for sure. The after second. I think the during is really just kind of, you're just there. Okay, so let's talk about the during. All right, check when you get to the property, check that all the doors and windows are secure. Now, why? For your safety. Okay. You get to the house. You ever go into a house and you get there and the door's open and you're like, I don't know if I want to go in there. Right. I know I don't want to go in there. Okay. Why? Because the bad guys are bad people. I had to change it from bad guys because we got to be politically correct. But the bad people may already be in the house and they may be hiding in there. They may have entered from another location. Right. That's why I usually go around and secure the property from inside. When I get to the property, just make sure there's nobody in there waiting. Okay. So if not, if it's not secure, you might want to exit the property. You might want to contact the seller's agent right away and say, hey, you know what? I got to the open house and the doors are open, right? Or even just unlocked. Now, maybe somebody just forgot and they didn't, they put the key away and they forgot to lock the door again. I don't know. Are you worried about your own safety? I probably would. We lose somebody every year. Okay. But you might also want to contact the authorities. You get in there and the whole inside of the place been tagged. I'd probably be contacting law enforcement as well. Right. But certainly if I get in there and there's something not right, I mean, and for some of us, our instincts are really good. And for those of us that aren't, do it anyway. Okay. All right. So remember that the MLS rules require you keep the key in your possession at all times. Used to be that we would leave it in the door. Right. But then, I get the phone phone call, says, your agent lost my key. And then I call the agent goes, where was the key? Well, I left it in the door. So in other words, the bad guy or bad people picked it up, took off with it, made a copy or whatever, they're not going to return it, that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, our rules have changed across the country. You have to keep it in your possession, not in the door lock, not on the countertop. It needs to be in your possession. Okay. All right. Okay. There you go. Not left in the key lock. I want you to direct the customer, and we're going to have some redundancy on this here today, but I want you to direct the customer. I want you to control traffic. Okay, rather than leading them. And there's a number of reasons behind that. One of them is that if you are leading them, you are in the way. Okay, and for a lot of reasons, you don't want to be in the way. Okay, so I'm going to let them go ahead, but I'm definitely going to accompany them. Do not let people wander indiscriminately through a property. All right. So I got interviewed on Channel 8 a couple of years ago. Opioid is just not going to go away at the moment. And so they interviewed me because they knew we were having a lot of thefts at open houses. And so, so they asked me, they said, so what are they stealing? And because we know that they're going up into the medicine cabinets and they're going through things. So, they'll come in usually come in as a couple. And unfortunately, we're probably alone at the open house, which is always a mistake, right? I always want to have a buddy system going on, but they come in as a couple. And the one says, I'm just going to go upstairs. It's usually right around 3:50, right towards the end of your open house. I'm just going to go upstairs real quick and look around. So then I get the phone call that says, my prescription medication is missing. In other words, my opioids are missing, right? And there's a big market for that. Even Bill Gore, who was our sheriff recently, he even said we stopped letting them get their own medicines in the prison system. Instead, what we just gave everybody a Motrin. It says, they were selling the drugs. It was like the biggest commodity at the place. I guess they got to go back to selling cigarettes now, right? But they were selling the drugs. They were making a lot of money there, and so we just took all the drugs away, didn't give them any new ones, and so give them a Motrin. But I thought it was pretty funny when he said that. So back to my directing the customer rather than leading them. I'm also doing that thing for my own safety, right? So if I am in front of somebody, first of all, I'm blocking their view, but secondly, I run the risk of getting overpowered, right? And I don't want that to happen. Now, I know you think it's not likely I'm going to get overpowered, but you know what? Hey, it doesn't matter who you are. When you're going through the house, you never want your back to people. Okay, I always tell you to stand up against a wall, never in front of the window. I mean, they go to the window to look at the view, and you're standing in front of it. I probably wouldn't do that. Okay, so direct rather than lead. You might want to limit the number of visitors in the property at a time. Okay, again, I think you should always have a buddy, but if you are alone at the property, you might want to lock the door behind them so that nobody else comes in. Okay, it's just kind of the way it is. All right, so we want to, for our own safety. Okay, question: what items do you recommend tell the owner to not leave him the property before having an open house? To not leave? Do you mean what not to leave at the open house? I think that's what you mean. The question is a really good one. I'm amazed at some of the things that I see. Thank you, Vanessa. I'm amazed at some of the things I see at open houses. I've gone into open houses. Money clips on the I call it the Davenport or the Chesterfield, the dresser. They'll have money clips, money in them, guns, knives, pictures that are probably pretty questionable. These are the kind of things I would think you would think of them as private, right? But these are things people leave them out. And so I've got a really good checklist for you to look at. In fact, let me see if I can pull that up here. I have a whole bunch of handouts for you. Where am I over here? Disclosure, not there. Okay, darn it. All right. So I'm going to take you to my, I didn't want to print all, I didn't want to pull all these things up. So let's take a look in here. I've got my open house model home safety checklist. Can everybody see that on the right-hand side? Let me minimize this. I'll send you all this stuff, okay? Because I think you should have it. But there's my open house model home and safety checklist. Here's my my PVOH. I think I would require it. I would have them sign it before they come into the house. Okay, have them sign the document. It's dangerous going into houses. You have recording devices. we know this is a problem, right? You know, I had a lawsuit where the buyer sued the seller because the seller was eavesdropping in on the conversation they were having with their agent about an offer. And so, you know, once they find out about that, they get cranky. All right. And so, again, all the lawsuits I talk about are always somebody else's. So recording devices, you got to be aware of it. Visitor safety, you know, watch your footing. You know, we're doing it in writing. Animals or pets, you know, I differentiated last week between, you know, the pets that's there versus the pet you bring. Okay, two different scenarios of what's going to go on. I always ask the owner when I'm doing an open house to not be present. And then they say, well, why? I know so much about the house. Yeah, but they won't talk to me freely. They won't ask questions in front of you. And if anything, they'll tell you what a great house it is. We're going to go write an offer, and then you never hear from them again. So I always tell them, nah, I want you to leave. Accompanying minors, risk of injuries. Notice the only person that signs it's the visitor. I think that's one of those really good ways of getting people used to signing things, because, you know, I want to engage with them in the open house. All right. So property visit, open house advisory, we put it in all of our listings in the to bring that back up. Where is it here? In the documents section. See right here where it says right above where it said open house. I'm going to click add edit document. I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm going to choose the file. I'm going to put it in there. It's in all of our listings because we want them to sign it. We want the buyer to sign the property visit open house advisory because we want at least some protection from, you know, what we're going to get, you know, when they get injured. Checklist for a better home showing. Again, I'll send you all this. You know, when I put these presentations together, it's not a 2-minute deal. It's like I rewrote this one. Agent property showing, safety checklist. Okay, seller's property showing, safety checklist. And so your question, Vanessa, was a good one, right? Remove keys, credit cards, checks, and cash, right? Lock up anything that contains personal information. I mean, I don't think I've ever, and I worked in law enforcement, I don't think I've ever walked in and, you know, the deputy's badge is sitting out there in the open. It's just not going to be, okay. Or the service weapon is not going to be there. All right. But, you know, you look at all this stuff, you think this is common sense, right? Common sense, not so common anymore, but there we go. Lock up prescription drug, family photos, particularly your children. And when I mentioned photos earlier, I was talking about some really kinky stuff, not with the children, I hope, but the stuff I was seeing was like, I don't know if you want that. You know, today, you know, you see stuff on the internet that's just crazy stuff, but I don't think it's appropriate in the house. So open house etiquette. Again, I didn't want to open all of these up, but open house etiquette for homeowners. Now, that's a long document, so it's not going to let me open it, right? Okay, here we go. Let's try it. This one I got, this is an article that I took from that I borrowed from this resource here. Open house etiquette for buyers, tips for an open house. Okay, again, like I said, I'll send you all this. Now where's my share? Oops, question. Is this list available on the system? This list, are you talking about my stuff? Some of it is like everything else, you know, it's like a challenge to find it. Again, I'll send it to you, but I will show you. I haven't opened up the ZipForm program, but you know, open house safety tips for homeowners. Let me see if I can get that to open. There we go. Travelers insurance. You know, I just went around on the internet looking at all kinds of stuff. I know I've got a couple of really good ones in here for you. Where did it go? Here we go. Oh, you couldn't see that. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. Here's the Travelers thing. There you go. Got this from Travelers Insurance, open house safety for homeowners. All right. Question, Vanessa, so send me an email to kevin@burkerealestateconsultants.com. All right. Don't put your email address in here because I'm never going to see it again. All right. But send it to me. I'll send you the whole package. And the webinars, I load them up onto my YouTube website. You can do that yourself. What else? Serving alcohol at the open house. I would recommend against that. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Tips for holding a safe open house. That's another really good one. And then again, like I said, I just didn't just limit myself to the conventional things. You know, this one was from Risk Media, you know, how to hold a safe open house. All right. And I think that's almost a safety first, 8 tips to protect yourself when showing property. I'm going to have a little bit of a discussion about showing property as well. Where did it go? There it is. All right. So where's this from? Realtor.com. So, lots of good stuff out there. But like I always say, it's just we create such great stuff, but then, we forget to tell you about it. We go on to the next problem. So 10 tips for holding a safe open house. I've even got some stuff in there on advertising. So there it is. So that's NAR. Right. So there's lots of great stuff out there. This whole presentation, by the way, is an amalgam of all of those things. Okay. So I created the presentation based on all of my learning that I did when I was going through this whole project. Okay. All right. So back to, where am I here? Limit the number of visitors. I think you might want to do that if you're concerned about your own safety. Okay. Lock the door. Consider staggering them. All right. If you've got, I remember that we would have situations where we would have so much traffic at an open house that we would have several agents. And how do you handle that? Well, not everybody's going to work well partnering up, because invariably there's always somebody going to work harder than somebody else. So what we normally do is we would trade off, any eligible clients, that came in. You get the first one, I get the second one, you get the third one, I get the fourth one. And so, the 5-year-old coming in is not going to qualify. So to do that, but obviously an adult, somebody that's capable of contracting. Okay. Lock the door behind each entrant. You might want to do that. Probably not a good idea to serve alcohol. So let's talk about that for a second. Again, there's a great article in there. There's this little thing called host liability. If somebody has too much to drink and they get out in a car and they injure somebody, you're probably going to get toasted for that. So, no pun intended, right? So if it's open to the public, if it's an public open house, so like Saturday, Sunday, whatever you're doing, you might be required to have an ABC permit. And again, that's going to be my California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. So, be aware of that. If you're selling it, more likely, but I don't know, the rules change. Check with them and decide. And again, I ran the Chamber of Commerce for several years in Del Mar, and we used to hold some big parties up in the plaza, and we had to go out and get a permit. Right. Of course, we were selling, like $3 for a bottle, or not a bottle, but a little thing of wine, and people were just, but we had to pay the ABC to have it. So if it is open to realtors only, that might be worse. Best to have it catered by a group and that knows when to cut it off. Right. Okay. Somebody that'll take the liability over so you don't have it. All right. But there are professionals that do that. And again, I still am involved in security at a lot of functions for CAR and stuff like that. And so, we're always, make sure they don't take any alcohol out of the building, that kind of thing. You're gonna have a real problem, right? And these people know when to ID people in the first place. So remove all the flyers from the brochure box outside the house. I think that is a very important concept to remember. So you want to get those flyers out of there. Why? Because they'll pull up in the van, and the 5-year-old will hop out and go grab a flyer, and then and they've got everything they want. Now they know where the house is. Now they know how many bedrooms and bathrooms and how much it is. So they don't have any reason to talk to you. They think. That's why I'm usually standing out by the brochure box, and I'll capture them. Right? I don't think you should be sitting inside the house. Okay, so remove all the flyers from the brochure box outside the house. Remove all the flyers from the brochure box inside the house. Don't use it as a crutch. Okay, but agents will tell you what kind of kook tells you not to have flyers. The kind of kook that says, I want them to talk to me. But you hand them a flyer, now they're gonna start reading it, right? They don't need you anymore. They're gonna read the flyer. And if you're handing it to them inside, and I know the agent's been around a long time, and I've got some really good friends that are very successful, and most of them do not hand out flyers. Okay, because why? Because if you give them a flyer, they don't need you anymore. And so, I want to engage them in conversation, but for a lot of us that are newer, get the flyer in between us and them, it becomes like an obstacle to overcome. All right, so don't hand out flyers at the open house, period. Sometimes they're a crutch and come between you and the potential client. I was just thinking, psychology, it's a barrier, okay, it creates a barrier. So have a CAR form RA on hand. And I think that that's important. So let me show you the RA form. I've got it in here. Here it is. This is my realtor acknowledgement form. I think you should use this every time you turn around, okay? So this is page 1. It simply says, if you call yourself a realtor and you aren't, then you could be guilty of a 10177 violation. By the way, if you have a real estate license and you're not a realtor, you could lose that license. If you're don't even have a license, you can't get a job in a building, as a janitor, that has a real estate office in it. So it's a pretty powerful thing. Okay, so I show them page 1, I go down to page 2. A lot of it discusses the differences between being a licensee and being a realtor. There are 435,000 licensees in California. Only 200,000 of them are realtors. I get to explain to them the difference between the two. I subscribe to a written code of ethics. I never say they don't. I don't cast any dispersions on anybody because frankly, I don't know who they're talking to, right? But now they're thinking in their head, I thought you were all alike. And the answer is no, we're not all alike, and we don't always subscribe to a written code of ethics. I'm bound by it. People can hold me, hold me to it. It costs me money to defend myself. Okay, so good idea to read this. The only one who signs this is you. I'd probably use this. This is one of my best closing tools. I use this on my buyer side. I use it on my seller side. Okay, so that's my buyer representation agreement. All right, so that I'm doing pretty good because I'm actually going through, sign it, hand a copy to the customer. All right, everybody signs the PVOH. I already showed you the PVOH, so I don't think you need to see it again. Does anybody need to see it again? Let me know. Okay, but the PVOH is that property visit open house advisory. It is a CAR form. All right, before they enter the house, I wouldn't let them in. Okay, I'm sorry, you got to sign this because my broker requires liability reasons and all that kind of stuff. It's not a contract, right? It's not going to create anything other than what it is, which is an advisory. Have them sign it, give them a copy. You can give them a blank copy, but you keep the copy with a signature. That way they think that you got something on them. Okay, all right, so but clearly before they enter the house. Have an agency disclosure on hand. I think I remember talking to one of the former commissioners, Wayne Bell, and he said, I think you should have them sign the agency disclosure at the open house. And I agree with him, right? Because remember that scenario I was telling you about where you're holding another broker's house open? Ooh, okay. You need to make the disclosure of what's called the concept of agency. And again, these are all things that are fairly unintimidating, and you're going to ask them to sign it as a condition of coming in through the house, right? We'll talk about that in a second, but all this does is disclose what agency looks like. And if you're the seller's agent, here's my obligation as the seller's agent, and you don't have an agent, you ask them ahead of time, right? You ask them if they had an agent or not, right? I'm going to show you how to do that skillfully and how to get them to sign everything you've got. Okay, so that's the agency disclosure. You're going to have them sign it. You're going to give them a blank copy, unless you want to have them sign it twice, but you gotta have one signed by you as well. Okay, all right, everybody good with that? Okay, all right, that's my agency disclosure. I love the agency disclosure form. I can make a lot of money off of that. So have one on hand, complete it in advance. You sign that one first, right? And then they sign it, and then you give them a copy, because remember, you have to give them a copy of everything they sign. DRE used to require it at the time of signature. Now they just want you to do it, within 24 hours. Okay, all right. So, but it just discloses the concept of agency. It doesn't create a contract. So I don't think anybody should be afraid of it. Okay, so and you got them signing things. Isn't that cool? And once you get them to start signing things, they tend to get excited about the process and they start signing more things. So why not start with something that's not intimidating? Okay, all right. Always ask the question. This is important. This is another great closer for you. Always ask the question, do you have a buyer representation agreement with another broker? And what's their answer going to be? No, what's that, right? Unless they're coming from anywhere outside of San Diego, then they're going to know what it is, and they're going to say, no, I don't have one. Okay, good. Well, this is how we do business, all right? So NAR Code of Ethics and the Department of Real Estate require you to ask the question, all right? Now, this is a real important concept. Let me pull the form up really quick. I just want to show it to you. I'm not going to do a class on it here because obviously it'd be a little cumbersome, but there's my agency disclosure again. I'm going to scroll down. There's my buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. It's only a couple pages long, but I've usually got them filled out and ready for me at the open house. Print a couple of them. I mean, unless you're expecting a mob, but print a couple of them. You're gonna be surprised. People sign them. I had an agent brand new, and she comes into the office. She's got a file going already. She's got a contract with the buyer buying a house, and she comes in, and I look at that buyer representation agreement. I go, "How'd you do that?" It's brand new, right? I said, "How'd you do that?" Well, I put it in front of them. I told them to sign it. They go, "Okay." All right. Yeah, I'm not so sure she knew how to explain it, but all right, we're past first base, which is now we're getting them sign things. That's a pretty powerful thing for them to sign. Okay. So the buyer representation agreement, again, I just did this class I did this class on Tuesday. So I'm going to load that webinar up there. You really owe it to yourself. I have never had anybody refuse me. I don't know what it is. People, they come up with all these reasons why they won't use one, but like, have you tried? No, okay, well, then you get what and hey, you know something? NAR, Bob Goldberg is retiring. I put in an application to be the EO for NAR. Is that the funniest thing you ever heard? God, watch out, I might get it, right? Okay. So just for laughs and giggles, there's a whole bunch of people ahead of me, but if you don't try it, you'll never get it, right? So I'm gonna try it, give it a shot. NAR, Code of Ethics, and the DRE require you to ask at the door, do you have a buyer representation agreement with another broker? Because if you don't ask the question, there's some potential torts. One of those is interference with contract. If they have a buyer representation agreement with somebody, then you're interfering with that contract. You can't talk to them. They have an agent. Okay, in writing, they have an agent. Now, what are they going to really say? They're going to say, no, what's that? And then you get a chance to say, well, that's how we work in this industry is that we get, we create a contract between, there's already a contract between the seller and the seller's agent. And then we have a contract between the buyer and the buyer's agent. So now you know who your agent is, right? Rather than this fishy little third-party beneficiary of the listing agreement, that kind of thing. Okay, so anyway, go watch that webinar. It's a good one. You will not take anybody out ever again after you've seen that, unless you've got a buyer representation agreement. I'm confident. Okay, all right. Have that on hand, completed in advance. I just showed it to you. Be prepared to use it because they're gonna be happy to sign it. Okay, CAR has an open house library. I just thought I'd throw that in there. $50 a year. I don't know. I think you get most of the stuff. I'll send you probably the equivalent of the library, right? I mean, I don't have the library, but CAR has some really good stuff, and I really like the way they put things together because a lot of it is kind of ways we never thought about it before. Okay, so I mean, they got some really good attorneys and they write really good stuff. So $50, it might be, listen, for a whole year, how much is that a month, right? What, $2 or something? Or not, that's $4, right? So essentially $4 a month. I think you can do that. Okay. All right, good. Insist on business cards from buyers agents. I hate it when the agent comes in and says, oh, I'm an agent. And I'm going like, oh, that's pretty funny. I've been here for 44 years. And I don't know who you are. And I feel terrible about that because I'm sure you're somebody. And I apologize. Who you with? And if they can't think of the name of the company that they're with, then you got one, right? And so, why? I just want to make sure that I know who I'm dealing with, okay? But people will come in and they'll say they're the agent. I send people, I hand my clients, stack of business cards and I say, go look at open houses till the cows come home, all right? Give them my card, tell them you're working with me. I've never had anybody call me back and say, hey, you know what? They tried to solicit me even though they knew I was working with you. Of course, because they probably knew I have a buyer representation agreement with you. Okay. So the business, hand them a stack of cards. When you go to the open house, here's how you get rid of the agent, right? You give them a business card, right? So, definitely give them a business card. So I always ask for one. So always have somebody with you at your open house. This is a very important concept. Remember that the bad people tend to travel in pairs. Remember my Channel 8 example? I got interviewed a lot by Channel 8 actually last year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. And so, frankly, they do. They travel in pairs. The one engages you downstairs. The other one says, I'm just going to go upstairs really quick and just take a look around and ruffle through the dresser, that kind of thing. All right. So for your safety, for the safety of the property, to handle the rush, right? Because you can probably get one when you least expect it. That's the scary thing about real estate is you never know when they're going to start coming in, right? But it's usually going to be like before 1 and after 4. So lenders are great for this. And so it's a shout out to my friends in the lending industry. They're more likely to get the visitor's contact information than you are, right? They can be better at interviewing and closing clients than we are. And pay attention, you learn something new. I think you're going to learn a lot from the way other people do business, okay? And so I've had more than one open house. The lenders doing other stuff. They're working on files and stuff, and you're talking to people, they're going to talk to the people too. And I'm always just fascinated by how they can keep that conversation going by asking a lot of questions. Okay, that's important. All right. So do not sit inside the open house. I wouldn't do that. Right. I think first of all, it's dangerous. Okay. But secondly, they're making the decision outside on whether they're going to come in or not. Wouldn't you like to be involved in that decision? Remember what I said about taking all the brochures out of the brochure box? I want to take all those out of there because I want them to talk to me. I want to be the one with the information, that kind of thing. Okay. I got some other really good suggestions for you. Do you have curb appeal? I'd be sitting, I walk up and down Carmel Valley Road, right? And people they're not swerving to avoid because they're hopefully not driving too fast, but I'm always making eye contact with people on the road and, hey, are you here for the open house? So and bring them in. But I'll get them to come in when they kind of were trying to figure out a way not to, and then they'll come in anyway. Make eye contact with them. I had a gal with our company with the Rock people, and we had a house that I'm trying to think of the street name. It was off of Pine Needles in Del Mar, and so she would, the house was way the heck up this hill, and you had to walk up the hill to get there. And so she would just, cars would be approaching slowly. This is like 7 o'clock at night, right? Because I always told them, don't hold your open houses in the summer 1 to 4. And so, cars would be driving. She'd go stand in front of the car with her hand out. And I'm like, oh God, no, don't do that. And they hold her hand out. Then she'd walk around to the door and she'd say, are you here for the open house? And the way she would say it, you had to answer yes, whether you were there for the open house or not. And so, and then she'd go, okay, good. Then she'd reach in and turn the car off. Now you can't, in the old days, you could turn the car off and take off with the keys, but today, the car, it's going to stay there. So they go, okay, car's in the middle of the street. I'm showing the house. I just thought I was going to die. Funniest thing I ever saw. She got everybody signed all of her stuff. They didn't care. That she was just really clever. Invite them into the open house. Make contact, eye contact. Have a guest register. That's interesting. I've changed my position on guest registers. Okay, so I always, and I'm not going to sign a guest register, right? But have a guest register. Ask people to sign it. You know what they're going to do? They're probably going to sign it. They're going to fill it out. They don't really sign the guest register, right? They just fill out their information on the guest register. Okay. You'd be surprised though. They tend to be really honest about we have a guest register. I apologize. I didn't pull it up here, but, send me an email. I'll send you a copy of our guest register. And why? Because we use it, right? But the old cliche, the seller requires it for their safety, is tired and overused. I wouldn't do that. I would just ask them to do it. And I would fill in the first one, right? So, with my name or somebody's name or whatever, so that it looks like somebody's already started the process. And because nobody wants to be the first one. So I always start it with 1, maybe 2. And then you'd be surprised. People come in, just start filling them out. I'm like, really? Wow. I mean, I don't ask for their social security number or how many children they have or anything like that. But what am I looking for? Again, it'll be, the name, your phone number, what you're looking for. Are you working with a realtor? That kind of thing. Again, just like that other one that I said, about, oh, really? What company you're with? So I'll talk to people. They say they're working with a realtor. Oh, really? Oh, I'm president of 2 different associations here. Who are they? I probably know who they are. And then they can't remember who they are. And so the gig is up, right? Okay. And so, that's why I always ask them for a business card. And think about this for a second. So I asked them for a business card. They're like, talk about turning the tables on them. Because they're so used to, the agent giving them a card. And then now, oh, it's okay. I'll call you. I never give out business cards at open houses, right? I collect them. Okay. I don't have business cards on the countertop. I want them to talk to me. I want to talk to them later. So I always ask for their card. Now, here's the thing, excuse me. And I put on there, be sure that your guest register includes the do not call list language. And I wrote this up for you last night just because I wanted to make sure you had something to work with. So here's what ours says. By entering your phone number, you give consent for an agent of Burke Real Estate Consultants, Inc. to contact you, even if your name is on the federal do not call registry. Okay. And so you need that consent. The fact that they put their phone number on there is not consent. And I want you to know that, and the courts have held that. So you may not call someone unless you have their consent. You've done business with them in the last 18 months, clearly a class I teach. Okay. But you want to be careful about that. The penalties are getting worse. They used to be $11,000. I know they've gone north of that quite a bit, but you want the language on there that says, you put your phone number down there, you allow me or somebody who works with me to call you. Okay, what a great fix that is, right? And most times they don't even think about it. They just put their phone number down there, but I want to make sure that's on there so I can defend the fact that you gave me permission. Make sense, everybody? Again, I'll send you the PowerPoint too if you want it, or if you look at the video, you'll see the whole thing, okay? So have a list of available homes in the neighborhood. Now, don't overdo this, okay? Because remember, you want to captivate them, and I think you make that decision. They make the decision they want to work with you in about 15 seconds, okay? So they're going to make their decision pretty quick. So are you likable? That kind of thing. You make good eye contact, good handshake, introduce yourself, give them 2 names. I remember my business partner, she got that figured out. My former business partner got it figured out. She would say, hi, my name is, Nancy Beatrice, whatever. And then they would say, and she would go, and your name is, and then they would go, well, I'd rather not give you my name. And then she would say, can I buy a vowel? About that point, they realize how silly this is, right? And so then they go, okay, fine, here's my name. But if you give them two, they give you two back. If you only give them one, then they only give you one back. And I want both of them. And by the way, when I'm getting both of them, again, this is my open house class, right? When I'm getting both of them, I repeat them back. Okay, always repeat people's names back to them. Why? Because people like to hear their names. Okay, you know, I always knew I was in trouble when my father called me by my middle name. I knew, there's a whooping coming, right? So, you know, so just give it back to them in kindness. Just say it again. I want to make sure I got it right. I so appreciate you being here. Linda says I can charm the scales off a snake, but you know, at the end of the day, I like people. I like working with people. They're fun. It's better than a lot of other stuff I've done. So have a list of homes available in the neighborhood, as well as homes that have sold recently. Do you need the expires? Do you need the cancel withdrawals? All right, maybe. But here's the secret. And because I've had enough of these walk off, right? So put them in a slip sheet. You know what I'm talking about? Costco, you got the 500 of them for $4, right? You know, where you put the 8.5 by 11 paper in there, put it in a binder. They sell the binders. It's like, what, $5 for 7 of them or something. It doesn't have to be an expensive binder, but I wanted to make it cumbersome, because if it's cumbersome, they're less likely to walk off with it. All right. And that's why, because I'm going to tell you, if you don't, these things get legs. Okay. They disappear on you. All right. So I put it in a binder. They take that. Now it's theft, but if it's a piece of paper sitting around, then they think, oh, okay. It's like, wait, where'd my paper go? And they get out of the house with it. And you're like, I didn't even see them pick it up. Right. But they take off with your list. And it's like, not that they're stealing it. It's just, they think it's, just a loose leaf piece of paper. So I'm going to make it official. I'm going to put it in a slip sheet. That's big enough. Then I'm going to put it in a 3-ring binder. Now we're really getting serious. Now you're taking off with my binder. So, I'll open it up. I'll show it to them and do stuff like that. Close it back up. Now we're going to talk about real estate. Okay. And be familiar with your neighborhood. Okay. So, again, put it to sleep. Do not hand it to people. I took out the part. Okay. So don't hand them to people. Don't give those out. All right. Because otherwise they don't have no reason to talk to you. Bring and do the real estate related things that you've been putting off doing. And I say that, and it's not tongue in cheek. I'm serious. You've been putting off doing, calling people back and doing your communication logs and stuff like that. Do the things you've been putting off doing, but I want you active. I don't want you sitting. Okay. I never let my agents have chairs at their open houses. I mean, and very rarely they'd find a way to sit. But if you're sitting, you're not talking to people. I had an agent I was coaching in Scottsdale who was doing an open house in a gated community, and she never advertised anything. No signs anywhere. The community doesn't allow signs. So what is she doing during her open house? She's sitting inside the open house watching the baseball game. Doors locked, by the way. Air conditioner's going full blast. And she says, yeah, people interrupt my game all the time. I'm sitting here thinking, what are you missing here? But they would find her, right? Well, why? Because there's a guard at the gate. And of course, the guard thought she was something to go see. And so he would tell people, oh, yeah, so-and-so's having an open house up at this, that, here's the address, all that kind of stuff. I always went to the guard, not that I'd be that appealing, but I went to the guard. I would always go there in the beginning and I'd hand them a whole bunch of flyers. And on a gated community, I would hand them a flyer with directions on how to get to the property. No prices, no bedrooms, no bathrooms, address, directions, right? And I would always give the guard a coffee card, but I learned from a really good fellow instructor that, she says, I just give them lottery tickets. So you think they're giving you the keys to the city, right? I mean, I don't know, what does $5 buy you anymore? I mean, coffee card, right? I was telling this group the other day too, you can get a hold of some of these coffee companies. I'm talking about the big green one. You can get a hold of them and they will put your business card professionally on one of their cards, right? They just have a minimum of 100 orders. So if you're buying $5 cards, that's $5 times $100, times 100 units, but you're giving these things away like water, right? I mean, you want everybody to have your card. Of course, then they're going to realize at $5 they got a half a coffee or something like that. But if you follow my drift, that's a marketing thing. You just go to send me an email. I'll send it. I don't want to make any promotions, but send me an email. I'll send you who it is, and then I'll give you their address and how to get a hold of them. Okay. Handwrite thank you notes to the people. Handwrite, okay, thank you notes. The people that you met when you were canvassing the neighborhood. So you already know, remember, you have your checklist, you have your spreadsheet, you already know whose doors you were knocking on, right? So now you know the addresses because you've circled them on your checklist that, you know, those are the ones with the corners, right? That kind of thing. And so handwrite thank you notes. Okay, now we're going to make this official. We're going to put in little envelopes and stuff like that. Handwrite thank you notes to your SOI, right? Your sphere of influence, okay? Handwrite the envelopes. Okay, now I'm saying all this because I know people that will have these things manufactured. I think there's a lot to handwriting a note. Now, my handwriting is not that great, but I can pay, you know, a kid over there at UCSD to write 100 of these things, and probably, I don't know what, $20. You know, they'll do the whole thing for me. So there's a lot of people out there that'll do stuff for you for very inexpensive with much better handwriting than mine. And people say all the time to me, "Wow, Kev, you should have been a doctor instead of a lawyer. I can't read a thing you wrote." And I go, "It's okay. I can't read it either." So, you know, I get a big kick out of it, right? That's why I don't handwrite my notes. I've usually have somebody else do it. Linda's handwriting is far superior than mine, but I think you need to have somebody. If you're not good at handwriting, you have somebody else write your note, okay, and pay them a couple bucks, okay. But handwrite, all right, because if it's something that looks like it was manufactured, they're going to pitch it, okay. They don't have a chance to realize you put a lottery ticket in there. Okay, put postage on them. If you're mailing things, put postage on them. Do not use bulk mailing labels. Okay, we had an agent in our company with the Rock people who was running everything through our bulk permit, and it's like, you know, the capture rate for that was just nothing, right? I mean, you can get a whole lot more traction by putting a stamp. And I know stamps are so expensive nowadays. Listen, next time you go down to the post office, buy $1,000 worth of stamps, because they're all forever stamps. I have so many stamps. They're all forever stamps, which means I don't care what postage goes to. I'm going to probably not outlive my stamps. Okay. All right. And people will throw away bulk rate stuff. Okay. They'll throw it away. They won't even open it. Right. And I want them to open it. Okay. Dialing for dollars. So you're at your open house, call everybody that you know and invite them to your open house. Just get on the phone. Somebody said in a webinar I was just in an hour ago, they said, they were asked, how many people are in your phone? And they said 1,000. I'm sitting here laughing because you can fit 1,000 people inside your phone. You're gifted, right? And so, because in my brain, I'm thinking, they're not going to get into your phone. You mean you have 1,000 people entered into the phone, their phone numbers in your phone, but you need to call everybody. You have an amazing database sitting right in front of you, all the people you haven't wanted to call, and you always call them on the phone for a brief conversation. Okay. Brian Buffini says it really well. His pop by. I'm not there to have, lunch. I'm there. I leave the engine running, leave the door open, that kind of, so they know I'm leaving, right? I just want to stop by really quick. And so that's the same thing with the call. And then invariably, when you're tired of talking to them, whoops, I got to go. Somebody's coming into my open house. Okay. What are you doing right now? I'm doing what I've always loved to do. I've always loved to do open houses. I can't believe it. Real estate's a great market. We're having a great time. People are buying and selling, making money. So it's an excuse. It's just an excuse, right? To have a brief conversation with them. Don't get involved in a long conversation. Sphere of influence, I think so, right? Now's a good time to catch up with these people, okay? I haven't spoken with you in a while. Here's a script for you. I just had a moment to catch up, okay? And so, how you doing? How the kids? I was with a guy that did roughly 822 transactions a year. And that's in San Diego, by the way. I've been in other places where they do 6,000 transactions a year. And everything was off of Google, right? So they go into their contacts in Google, and they had a note field in Google, and all they did was type in their notes. And so I remember sitting behind him one day, and he's calling one of the people that he had to return a phone call. He had them up on the screen on the big, because it was connected to the big TV in the office. And he calls him up. He's having a conversation with him. Super nice guy, and he's got the notes right there. They got the 3-year-old, Billy Bob or whatever. And he's asking, how's the little one doing? I see he's got a birthday coming up. So I'm saying, oh my God, I'm going to gag on this. But it was so simple and it was so effective. And his clients adored him. So, because he remembered everything. They didn't realize that everything was on the screen in front of him. He could see everything. And if he had to change anything, he would, well, Billy Bob went off to college. Really, where's he going? Right. So he asked a lot of questions, very personal, very good. Get it? 822 transactions a year. I'll take lessons from that. Okay. All right. It's good. Okay. It's a little bit more than I did, doing 125, 150. Okay. All right. Brian Buffini's pop buys. We talked about that. Dialing for dollars. Call everybody that you know. Oh, that's a repeat. Remind people what you do for a living. Okay. Make sure they're aware. I'm holding an open house and I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to help people, help the homeless, help people either become homeless or stop from being homeless. You see what I'm saying? I can make this fun. All right. Be sure you understand the value of your time, because I think your time is very valuable. We used to tell people that you've got, we bill you out at $250 an hour. I'm not sure that number is realistic anymore, but you have tremendous value to me. I mean, I just the fact that you're here today, and I can see their list of, Miriam and Ruben, and I'm not gonna start naming names, because if I do that, then I got to name everybody. But thank you for being here. Your time is, in my brain, your time is very valuable. But if I can help you make your time, because you have the same 24 hours that I do, right? Make your time more valuable, then I'm here to do that. Okay. So that's why we're doing this. Your job is not a passive job. Get out there and talk to people. Okay. Wear your logo. Wear your apparel. I don't want you to be a secret agent, okay? I want you to be in front of people. Again, remember, real estate is a full contact sport. Remember that, okay? You need to be talking to people, okay? Sitting at home eating bonbons is not going to make you rich, all right? So it's that all about the past. Now we're going to talk about the after. Okay, so we did the before, we did the during, we did the after, and I'm going to give you a little bonus today too. We're going to talk about how to show property. Oh, we've talked about a lot of it already, so we'll spin through it. But leave a handwritten note for the seller. Now, some of you already know this, right? You leave a nice little note that says, "Hey, the open house went great. I had 2 people through. Just want to let you know. Let them know maybe there's some suspicious activity or something. You might want to let them know about that. You clearly want to let the seller's agent know about it. But leave them a handwritten note, okay? And the gift card. Give them a gift card. Okay. I've ended up with listings that way. They said, hey, I'm listed with Bob, but I have a friend that's trying to sell their house, and are you interested in taking a listing? And it's like, oh no, I hate taking listings, but for you, I'll make an exception. Okay. And so they love that, of course, right? Or give them a lottery ticket. I think a lottery ticket's a great idea. After now, double check all the doors and windows. Remember, we double checked all the doors and windows when we got there. We're double checking all the doors and windows when we leave. Sometimes the bad people come back to the house. They do. They leave a window unlocked. They leave a door unlocked. I mean, it's not something you would notice unless you actually went around and tried the doors, tried the windows. But it happens, and you don't want to get that phone call. And clearly, your broker doesn't want to get that phone call that says your agent left my house open, and now there's cat feces everywhere or whatever. Okay, so they come through doors and windows. They unlocked earlier. When you retrieve your signs, be sure to knock on the doors again and thank the people that allowed you to put the sign in their yard, for allowing you to put the sign in the yard, and give them that gift card. Give them that lottery ticket, whatever, okay? Follow up with everybody. Everybody who attended the open house, you need to be following up with them. I think you need to make a phone call, again, with permission. I think you need to send them a little thank you note, right? Phone call, subject to the do not call admonitions. Thank you notes are huge. I can tell you something, I finally had to do it, it's a confession, but I have every thank you note anyone has ever sent me. Now, don't tell Linda that, but Linda's on the call. I'm not sure she's listening. I have hundreds, thousands of thank you notes. And I found them the other day, right? And so 25 years ago, I have thank you notes. I just can't throw them away. Well, I finally had to, right? Because of space permitting, that kind of thing. But oh my God, I read every single one of them before I threw them out. They went out in the thing today, the trash people picked it up and it's gone. It's no longer in my life. But at some point I had to get rid of it. I mean, I don't know, is that hoarding? But thank you notes are very big. They're impressionable. And like I said, I just so appreciate people sending me one that I just can't throw them out. It's like, wow. And I just got some really good friends who have done that. So let's talk about the showing. I want to talk about showings for a second. So we talked about the before, the during, the after, but let's talk about showings. And this is going to be kind of a generic, not only showing your open house, but also showing property to clients. All right. And so we're still going to get out a little bit early. So in general, showing property, like holding open houses, it has to be a skilled event, right? So remember, always travel in pairs. Why? Because the bad people certainly do. They travel in pairs to set you off, and plus it's more gang behavior. But if we got two of us, we're less likely to have a problem. So when showing property, set the mood. Every light in the house is on. Your open house, first thing after you check all the doors and windows, every light in the house. Okay. Yes, even the oven light. All right. Now I had a little joke in there about the refrigerator light. Is it on? You open up the door, it's on. Oh, the light's on. Okay, all right, you all know what I'm talking about. But even the closet lights, I go around looking for lights to turn on. I ought to make sure that when I retreat from the property that I turn them all off again. And I'm talking about when I'm showing a property or when I'm holding an open house. I want to light the place up. It's a Roman candle, right? I want to light it up. I want the air conditioning going. I want every curtain, window covering open. I want the fireplace roaring. Okay, again, confirm with the occupant that it is okay before you do it. Okay, but I've had open houses where the seller gave permission, 5 air conditioners going and 5 fireplaces going and every door in the place open, right? And it's like, wow. Okay, these are people that don't care about their SDG&E bill. All right, air conditioning, heating, a comfortable setting. Think about what you experience when you go to a model home, right? New home construction, you go to a model home. What does it look like? Every curtain's open, nothing blocking the view. My dad back in the 70s, or 70s, geez, 50s, worked new home construction. He said, oh yeah, we always bought downsized furniture. I go, what? And he goes, yeah, so that way it made the room look bigger. And I'm like, God, I had no idea about that, right? So downsized furniture. I think today the rooms are big enough. You probably don't need to do that. But anyway, just check it out. All the stuff you learn as you go. Greet the customer at the door. Do not wear sunglasses. And by the way, never meet someone at the property the first time, right? You always want to meet them in a public place, the office, coffee shop, someplace where somebody can readily identify the person that you were last with before you were killed, that kind of thing. All right. You need to make sure that it's obvious. One of the things we used to do years ago was we made them come into the office. We'd introduce them to everybody in the office, make it look like a great big family. And then we'd take their driver's license and make a copy of that and leave that in the office, but today I know people frown on that kind of stuff, or people think they don't take it seriously. And I've had brokers contact, in fact, I had a really big broker in San Diego contact me and said, will you do a class on realtor safety? Because, we're just kind of throwing it up to the wind. It's not worth the check, folks. Okay. Don't wear sunglasses. I don't care how cool you think you are. It just turns people off, right? Especially not the first meeting. They want to make eye contact. They want to make sure that you're somebody they want to work with. Okay. And eye contact, handshake, your body language is very important. Okay. All right. So stand with your back to a wall. I already told you about that. You don't want to block the view or compromise your safety. Accompany the customer on the tour. Remember, you are going to direct them, not lead them. Think about the safety of the property. Remember the opioids. Let the customer go first. You don't want to get trapped. Think about your safety. The conversation, by the way, talk little. So when I'm doing lecture, as some of you have been in my college classes, I'm up there lecturing really. But when I go on an appointment, and Linda will tell you, I go on an appointment, she goes, who are you? And she said, all you did was sit there and ask questions and then you stopped talking. She said, I don't think I've ever heard you stop talking. And so, yeah, but look how much I learned, right? And so that's what I want to do. I want to talk little, learn more, listen more. Okay, you follow me here? So you become a professional interrogator, ask a lot of questions, even if you don't know where they're going to go. At some point, you're going to be building rapport with these people and they'll sign anything. Okay, my former business partner used to say they'll sign anything just to get rid of you. And I go, okay, I'll take that. I'm all right with it. Okay, all right. So the more you listen, the more whoops, I lost my screen. The more that they will think that Okay, so talk little, listen more. All right, careful about puffing. Puffing only applies to selling used cars. I assure you, stuff that you say is going to get you into trouble. Be careful. You are not a contractor. You are held to the education required to get your real estate license. Don't I, you know I'm a non-practicing lawyer. I don't give them legal decisions. I don't talk to them about what the law says or stuff like that. We don't use the word legal in a sentence, right? We just don't do those things. So don't get close to the line. Okay. Showing property the right way, and I'm going to get you out a little bit early, produces positive results. Okay, so if you any questions about any of that so far, I'm going to use that opportunity to get a drink. Anybody have any questions? Now I'm going to give you some more valuable information. And by the way, as I said earlier, I'll send you the whole file, all the stuff I researched to get to what we got to today. If you'd like to view any of our previous webinars, we have a new YouTube website. Okay, so get your QR code reader ready. You got a QR code, right? Whoa, I got messages already. Look at that. All right. Okay, so there's the QR code. Now, as you know, you click on your QR code reader and you scan that QR code to take you right to the YouTube website. Okay. You can also go to @Burke Real Estate Consultants Inc. This is how you should have your email address, by the way. With the uppercase B, uppercase R, uppercase E, makes it easier for people to read it, right? So you can go there. You can go to bit.ly/real-estate-ed. And by the way, my DRE classes are going to start showing up on the link. So you'll need to go there, fill out the form to get into the class. All right, case is important. Please remember to like and subscribe if you would, please. It makes me feel good. At the same time, all it does, the like, just again, it makes me feel good. But the subscribe, whenever I load another video, it'll send you notification that there's a new video. Okay, and so I don't know, maybe you want that. Okay, we also have I'm sorry, you can also get a hold of education@sdar.com if you can think of anything you want us to be talking about. I know I've got it on the agenda already. We have an attorney who asked that I would do a class on agency, and I think an hour is probably plenty of that. But I'm going to start converting a lot of my classes to for DRE approval because it's not as difficult as I thought it would be. We have a newsletter that comes out weekly only. You've got to send a request. I don't put you on there unless you ask for it. So that's pretty much everything. There's my email address, by the way, if you want to get a hold of me. Again, I am happy to answer any questions that you have. I am happy to help you in any way that I can. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome back. So anything I can do for you, please let me know. Does anybody else have anything? I'm going to come back today at 2 o'clock. And what am I doing? Property management, the beginning. So pretty much a class on what's involved in it. I'm hopefully not going to scare anybody away from it, but again, I think there's a lot of money in property management, but you're making it nickels at a time. And so I should probably say dollars at a time, but there's a lot, but it has no concept of economy, right? Because people are always going to need housing, and you're in San Diego, which is, we're always going to have, they're always going to need us. Okay. So if there aren't any other questions, I do want to thank you all for being here today. I appreciate your time very, very much. And so for that, I'm going to let you out a little bit early. But again, I'll be back at 2 o'clock for property management at the beginning. Hopefully I get to see you there. If not, I hope you enjoy. I don't know, is this a 3-day weekend or a 4-day weekend? I don't know. I think we get Tuesday is a holiday, right? But I don't think Monday is. But anyway, I wish you success. I wish you safety. And if I can help you in any way, I'll be working all weekend. Please feel free. Thank you all for being here. As we say from my hometown of Del Mar, I look forward to seeing you around the track. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.